Hey, what's up you guys, it's Connor, and today I'm going to be continuing my 2019 reading wrap-ups, finally. It's been quite a while since I've done the last one, so I have a few books that I'm going to talk about in this one. I'm going to break it up so it's not an hour long or anything like that, so I'm going to do the next 10 books / comics that I've read in 2019. If you guys don't know, this is where I do small miniature reviews that aren't too in-depth of the most recent books that I read, but now it's not the most recent, but you know what I mean. The 11th book that I read in 2019 was Wrath of Gods, Paternus, Wrath of Gods by Dirk Ashton. This is the second book in the Paternus trilogy. I actually do plan on doing an individual review for this, but I did an individual review for the first book, and I'll leave that up in the card symbol if you want to check it out. It follows this girl named Fiona. At the beginning of the first book, she has just been living her life. She works at like a hospital that takes care of mentally infirm people or people that have a hard time taking care of themselves. She has this crush on one of her co-workers, and at the very beginning of the book, she finds out that there are all of these beings in this world that are called firstborns. Basically, there is a god, I guess. His name is Father, and he has throughout the ages bred with different creatures on Earth to create these firstborn. They are the seeds of religions around the globe. So Christianity, Greek mythology, Roman mythology, Egyptian mythology, Hinduism, all of these different religions have firstborn that were the seeds of that religion, if that makes sense. Basically, there are two different groups of these firstborn. There are the Asura and there are the Deva. And in this book, it's building up to another conflict between these two groups that want to either take over the Earth, kill all the people, or save the Earth, save all of the human people. This one does a really good job of weaving together different mythologies, different religions, stuff like that, as well as having just a really entertaining story. While I was reading this, it felt almost like a TV show where every time you think that a character is going to catch a break or is going to be okay for 2 seconds, something terrible always happens, and it's like, oh my gosh. The only thing while reading this that I had a problem with was that because there are so many characters, you really need to have like a character list / guide to keep them all straight because they all have multiple names. So I actually have my list of all the characters and what their names are and what their powers are and which side they're on, just to keep everyone straight. Other than that, I think that it could get bogged down a little bit in how many names there are and how many stories are interwoven, so it kind of stalls the plot while you're getting information about the backgrounds of these different characters. That didn't really affect my reading experience too much. I still ended up really enjoying this. I gave this book 4 stars, and I do recommend this trilogy so far. The last book has not come out, I don't think. And again, I'm going to be doing an individual review for this as well at some point, hopefully soon. The next book I read in 2019 is Stormcaster by Cinda Williams-Shima. This is the 3rd book in the Shattered Realms series, which is a sequel series to the Seven Realms series. So I do not recommend picking up the Shattered Realms until you've read the Seven Realms. Each book in the Shattered Realms focuses in on different characters. So this one focuses in on, I forgot his name, Evan, and he is basically a pirate, and he gets all mixed up in what has been going on in the previous books of this series. I did an individual book review for this and discussion, so it does have spoilers for this series. I'll leave it up in the card symbol if you want to check it out. The other reviews I have for this series are non-spoilers, so don't worry about that. Yeah, it's hard to talk about this book without spoiling anything. Basically, there is a very powerful empress from this island nation that is starting to try to take over the Seven Realms and take over the world. And these characters are special and have to prevent that from happening. I liked in this one that we start to get a lot more information about the magic system and how it works and why certain people are special and others aren't. One thing about this one though is that the beginning 100 pages almost feels like it's a novella, and then the rest of the book is its own thing. So the first 110 pages is kind of a love story between Evan and another boy. Forgot his name. It's been a while. But after that, then the plot actually gets going. I just really love Cinda's books, so I've just been really enjoying this one. I know the last book came out recently, so I still need to read that one and finish up this series. I have no idea how everything is going to wrap up in one last book. One thing that I don't know if I ever showed, I actually have the first book in the original hardcover edition that has the emblem on it that matches the original series, but then they switched them to have people on the front, and they don't match. The spines match fine, but the fronts don't. So I actually entered into like a giveaway situation and I won. So they actually sent me this. This is not a part of the review. I really enjoyed the book. I don't want to rip it. There we go. This sent me the redesigned hardcover dust jacket so I can fold it and put it on the book so that they all match, which is awesome. I forgot to do this again. I don't know if I said it, but I gave Stormcaster 4 stars. Next up, I read My Brother's Husband, Volume 2. This follows a character named Mike who goes to Japan to meet his dead husband's family. I talked about the first volume in my last wrap-up, and this is the last volume of the series. It's just 2. I freaking adored this overall. I really love this little girl. What's her name? Kana. Her name's Kana. I love her. She's amazing. And I love Kana and Mike's relationship. She really grows attached to Mike while he's visiting. And I just definitely recommend this if you want to check it out. It's super sweet, but not overly so where it's too sweet to handle. And I think it does a good job of just touching that surface layer of the differences between Canadian and Japanese cultures when it comes to gay men and the lack of acceptance that Japan has for it currently in real life. Yeah, definitely recommend this one, 5 stars. I'd plan to do a review of this duology. If you guys want to see that, let me know and I can make it happen. But if not a lot of people want to see it, I'm just gonna say that I love it and I recommend it, and I hope you will read it. There's just a little bit more of the artwork. I actually read a lot of ebooks in this next section. The first of my ebook spree was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I was reading this one because the 3rd book is nominated for the BookTube SFF Awards, which I'm so far behind on those, so we'll see if that happens. This one starts off where a character is forging documents so that she can board a ship and work for this crew. Her family is notorious on Mars, I think is the planet that she is from, and it follows this crew from Mars, I think Mars, to a small angry planet because they are tasked with creating these like portals, kind of, sort of, from one place to another so that it's easier to travel between them, and the place that they're going is a place that is known in the universe to be very violent and war-torn, so it just follows their everyday life as they're living on this ship and traveling. I liked this book, but I didn't love it as much as I was expecting to. People love this book so much. I have so many friends that this is one of their favorite books of all time, and I see why. I think that it does a really good job of having a lot of good messages that people should, consider and think about. There's a lot of acceptance in this, acceptance of different cultures, of different ways of thinking, of different sexual orientations, all of that, and I really liked those elements, but I thought that they were really heavy-handed, and it kind of took away from the story a little bit. It almost felt like I was getting preached at, and I was already a subscriber to those things, so I was just like, yeah, okay, let's get on with this story, and they were taking a break to explain a lot of different things, and I don't know, I liked it, but I didn't love it. I liked the characters enough. I just didn't think that it was, like, amazing. And that's totally fine. Different books for different readers and everything like that. I actually did read the second one. Is it on this list? But I'll be talking about that in a future video. I ended up giving The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet 3 stars. Liked it. Didn't love it. Still really good. I think that people would enjoy it. I just didn't enjoy it as much as I was hoping to. After that, I read City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. I did an individual book review for this as well, so I'll leave that up at the card symbol if you want to check it out. This one follows Cassidy Blake. At the beginning of the book, she's living in the United States somewhere, and she is not like other girls. She thinks that being popular is probably the worst thing that could ever happen to someone, or at least to her. She finds out that her parents are going to be starting a TV series where they go around the globe and find the most haunted places and talk about them, and they're making her go with them. The one hiccup with all of that is that Cassidy has had a near-death experience, and because of that is able to see ghosts. So when they go to these haunted places, she actually sees the ghosts and can interact with them. In this book, they travel to Scotland, and she then has to deal with all of the ghosts that are in Scotland and in this one haunted area specifically. One of the things that I really liked was that Victoria Schwab incorporated historical events into this novel. So there were 2 grave robbers who like dug up people's graves and everything like that. And those are characters that are in this book, as well as making some other ghost stories to, spice things up. The main antagonist in this, I think, is made up. I tried to look it up to see if it was a real ghost story or not, and I couldn't find anything on it. So I think that one was made up, but I really enjoyed those. The way that this is written, it seems like this series is going to be a bit episodic, so she's going to go from place to place and deal with different ghosts, which I'm totally down for. I think that that'll be really fun, and I really am looking forward to learning more about why certain ghosts are certain ways. Like sometimes they are in a loop and they just keep experiencing the same thing over and over again, and sometimes they can just walk around and interact with Cassidy in a normal way. Her best friend is a ghost that is like that. There are a ton of Harry Potter references in this, so I think that it could get bogged down by those different references. I'm hoping that she uses less Harry Potter references going forward. And I also found that the big resolution of the story was a bit too quick and a bit too easy for Cassidy to succeed at. So I'm hoping in the future books that she has a little bit more of a struggle to win and save the day. Not that the situation that she was in wasn't dire, but she got out of that situation very quickly and without a lot of effort. I gave City of Ghosts 3.5 stars. Then I picked up a graphic novel by P.S. Picat, I think that's how you say their name. I read Fence Volume 1, which is a comic book about a fencing team. A lot of people liked it. I thought it was just fine. It's been a couple months since I read this, and I honestly don't remember very much about it at all. I just remember that he's like a little bit of an outcast at the beginning because he's the newest person that's trying to get a spot on this team. I think every character on the fencing team is gay. That's like the only thing that is standing out to me. And yeah, it was fine. I gave it 3 stars. I enjoyed it, but I don't remember anything about it now. The next thing I read was Luck in the Shadows by Lynn Flewelling. In this one, it follows a character named Alec, and at the beginning of the book, he is imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. While in prison, he meets this guy named Saragil, who breaks him out of prison, and basically he decides to become an apprentice to this thief. They travel around their country trying to figure things out. That was very vague. This is a book where the very beginning of it is a little bit slow and it takes a little while for you to start connecting to the story and connecting to the characters. I can't remember exactly where in the book this is, but at some point you meet Sarah Gill's found family, and that was the point when I started really getting invested in this story and was needing to know what happened next. After that, I really wanted to know everything there was to know about Sarah Gill, and I was more invested in finding out Alec's mysterious past because he doesn't really know where he came from or who he is or anything like that. It's very 90s fantasy, which was something that I was really wanting to read when I picked this book up, so I enjoyed it for that. There are hintings that Alec and Sarah Gill might get together at some point, so I'm not sure if that'll happen or not. But by the time I finished this novel, I was really into it. I really want to know what's going to happen next to these characters. I want to know what is going on in the background, why certain characters are being put in certain places. There's a lot of political things going on in the background, and I'm curious to find out more about that. So I definitely will be continuing with this. I actually read this book as an audiobook, and I enjoyed it. I ended up giving this book 3.75 stars because the beginning is very slow and hard to get through a little bit. I then listened to Aru Shah in The End of Time, which is by Roshni Chachki. This is the first book in a middle grade series that follows a girl named Aru Shah. At the beginning of the book, she finds out that she is a reincarnation of one of the Pandava brothers, and they have to save the world from being destroyed. You find out that there is one other reincarnation currently floating around. Her name is Minnie, and she is fantastic. I love how just worried she is, and she over prepares for everything. I definitely know people like Minnie in real life, so I was really enjoying that. Aru's a little liar, and I really, really liked her for that. I thought that that was awesome, and I know that people are not going to like her because she's a bit of a fibber. She likes to make up stories or tell stories a bit grander than how they actually are, or make herself seem a little bit more important. But I think that kids have some insecurities like that, and I think that that's a thing that kids do. They try to impress people, and sometimes it goes a little too far. So I really, really was enjoying reading about Aru and Minnie on this journey to learn about the different Hindu gods and all of that stuff. I think that I would actually have enjoyed this more if I had read it physically. I really don't like the audiobook narrator for the book. She makes all the characters sound very, very whiny. I listened to one other audiobook narrated by this specific audiobook narrator, and I didn't like how she read the main character in that either. They basically sound the exact same. That one was City of Brass. And I actually pulled up a part where I don't think it spoils anything, but you'll get an idea for how she sounds.
The descent wasn't bad. It was like a long water slide without the water. It dumped them out in a forest. But something was off about this place. Granted, Aru didn't have much experience with forests. Once her mother had taken her to San Francisco. At first,
I think it's because she elongates the last vowel in every word, and that sounds very whiny to me, so I wasn't really liking that, and I don't recommend the audiobook, but I do recommend the book. I ended up giving the story 4 stars. I'm definitely looking forward to learning more about Hindu mythology through Aru and Minnie's eyes. This follows the same beat pattern as Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. It is very similar in style, it's very similar in tone. There are a lot of cheesy jokes that happen all the time. If you didn't like Percy Jackson, I don't know if you would really like this either, but if you do like Percy Jackson, you'll probably like this as well. So in the first book, in Percy Jackson, he runs into Medusa. This one, Medusa is a Gorgon that can turn people to stone if she looks at them. In this one, they also run into a character that can turn people to stone. So it just had very similar vibes to Percy Jackson, which makes sense because this is published as a Rick Riordan Presents novel, I believe. But yeah, if you didn't like Percy Jackson and you didn't like that style of book or jokes or whatever, then I would probably veer away from Arusha on the End of Time. But if you liked Percy Jackson, you like that style, but you're wanting a little bit different gods and everything like that, then I definitely recommend it. After that, I read Estranged by Ethan M. Aldridge. This is a comic book that follows a boy and a changeling that was switched for that boy. The boy who was taken from his human family and brought into the Fae world has to try to save his Fae situation because people are revolting and going against his parents. The human ends up meeting the changeling at some point, and it's the human, the changeling, and the human's biological sister, the changeling's adopted sister. They team up and are trying to save the day. I really enjoyed this first volume. I gave it 3.5 stars. I liked the artwork. I liked the plotting. I liked the story. I just think because it's the first volume that I'm not fully invested in what's going on yet. I think that with future volumes, I'll be more invested and I don't know, just get really into it. But I think that this first volume did a good job of introducing you to the characters and the world and this magic and all that stuff. So, recommend this one as well. I have no idea how I even heard about this. I randomly just picked it up from my library. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. And the 20th book that I've read in 2019 is Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote. I do plan to do a full review of Breakfast at Tiffany's. I'm about to watch the movie a couple hours after filming this video. So then I'll be able to do a book and movie review all in one like I did for A Man Called Uva a long time ago. This one follows a character named Holly Golightly, and she is your larger-than-life style of character, but she's actually kind of terrible. She is a very dislikable character. She lies, she manipulates people, she doesn't tell the truth. No one really gets to know her ever because she pushes people away, or she switches friend groups, or she moves on. At one point in the novel, she says something along the lines of, if you start to settle down, then you might as well be dead, or something like that. So yeah, she's definitely a character that's on the move. She doesn't want to settle down. She doesn't want to form strong friendships with anyone, but she has this magnetic aura, basically. This is not science fiction. This is just real life. But people can't help but love her and want to invest in her and want to give her things. So the main character moves in one story or a couple stories above her and is just very interested in her life and learning about her. At the beginning of the book, he meets up with a bartender who also is really invested in Holly, and they start reminiscing about Holly and everything like that. They haven't seen Holly in quite some time, and they're talking about whether or not she's still alive. And then it goes into the story and you start learning about the main character's experience with Holly. So basically you learn about Holly through the eyes of this main character who's narrating the story. I can see why people don't like it because Holly is very dislikable. She is terrible. So I understand why people would rate this low. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really interesting. Learning about Holly was interesting. I felt similarly to the characters surrounding her, just being who are you and why are you here? And she's like a train wreck that you see coming, but you can't look away. That's Holly Golightly. And I also understand because at the end of the book, she does something kind of extra terrible, and people are like, no thanks, get rid of her. And I understand that as well, but I still really enjoyed this, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I'm interested to see how the movie will compare, because I've heard people say that the movie version of Holly is a lot more likable than the book version. I will be doing a review when I watch the movie. So those are the next 10 books that I read in 2019. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and comment down below if you've read any of these books. What were your thoughts on them? Have you read Breakfast at Tiffany's or watched the movie? What were your thoughts on Holly Golightly? Anything else you want me to know, leave it down below, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.